Gentlemen, as a matter of respect for others, we request that all cell phones, pagers, and other electronics be switched to vibrate or turned off during the course of this meeting. As set out in Board Operating Procedures, Section 2E, Inappropriate Audience Participation, when a member or members of the public are disruptive, they will receive a verbal warning from the presiding officer. When a member or members of the public continue with a second infraction, the presiding officer will ask security to escort the person or persons out of the room and/or off the premises, and he, she, or they may not return during that meeting. The October 15th board meeting is now called to order at 6:01. We have a quorum with Ms. Dueñas, Mr. Haggerty, Mrs. Woodruff, Ms. Lewis, and myself, Patricia McLean. Trustee Reyes and Trustee Pearson have family obligations and cannot attend this meeting. Trustee Woodruff will read the color guard script to prepare the audience for the presentation of colors by Bel Air High School Junior ROTC.
It has become a tradition to honor our nation at each of our board meetings by presenting the colors, reciting the pledges of allegiance, and then posting the colors. The colors tonight are presented by the Junior ROTC Color Guard from Bel Air High School. The Color Guard commander is Cadet Brian Grijalva. The other Color Guard members are Cadet Damian Castaneda, Cadet Jesus Perez, and Cadet Alan Ornelas. The pledge leader is Cadet Mitchell Gutierrez from Bel Air High School. Will you please stand for the presentations of the colors, the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, the Texas Pledge of Allegiance, and a moment of silence. Please remain standing until the cadets have departed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now join me in the pledge to the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Please join me in a moment of silence.
Thank you.
Order, arms, outward, face, forward, march. Color guard, halt. Post. Colors. Straight net. Arms. Order. Arms. Center. Face. Forward. March. Color guard. Hold. Ready. Face. Right. Face. Forward. March.
Thank you. Dr. De La Torre, do we have recognitions this evening?
Yes, Madam President. Yes, Madam President. We have several recognitions and presentations this evening. With us is Patricia Ayala, our Director of Public Relations.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent De La Torre. We have several recognitions for you this evening. At this time, we ask that you please come join us at the front of the dais for the presentations. Members of the audience, please remain seated until the recognitions are complete. Our first proclamation is in honor of National School Bus Safety Week. The proclamation reads, whereas Ysleta I.S.D. school bus drivers are a vital part of the district, transporting thousands of students annually to and from 62 campuses and school-sanctioned activities, and school bus drivers are goodwill ambassadors of the district as the first and the last district employees students see every school day. Therefore, we, the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District, hereby proclaim October 20th through October 24th, 2014, to be National School Bus Safety Week. Proclamation adopted this, the 15th day of October. Here to accept the proclamation is Interim Transportation Director, Ms. Frances Yepes, and bus driver, Mr. Robert Cox. Let's hear it for our bus drivers. Our next proclamation is in honor of Red Ribbon Week. The proclamation reads, whereas the Ysleta Independent School District is sponsoring a community drug awareness program in Ysleta, and teachers, students, and administrators will celebrate National Red Ribbon Week at each of its campuses to educate young people to make the choice to be free of drugs and commit to a healthy lifestyle. Therefore, we, the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through October 31st, 2014, to be National Red Ribbon Week. Proclamation adopted this, the 15th day of October, 2014. Here to accept the proclamation is the principal of Pebble Hills Elementary School, Mr. Robert Martinez. Joining him is Assistant Principal Sandra Calzada. And please help us welcome students Alisa Fino, Jessica Fino, Daniel Morales, Michael Salgado, Haley Stasso, and Isabella Yepes. And we have another student joining us, Cynthia Briones. Also, we have our Pebble Hills teachers with us. Will all Pebble Hills teachers please stand to be recognized? And anybody who would like a photo op with these beautiful children, please feel free to come forward at this time. Everybody's behind you.
Here we go, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Wait, parents, keep going. You got it? Let's hear a big round of applause for Pebble Hill students. Our next proclamation is in honor of Principals Month. The proclamation reads, whereas as school leaders, principals are entrusted with our most valuable resource, our young people. These students are our promise for the future, and it is absolutely critical that they receive a rigorous and well-rounded education. Whereas principals are more than just caretakers of their schools. Principals are expected to be educational leaders, disciplinarians, community builders, budget analysts, and guardians of policy mandates and initiatives. Therefore, we, the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District, do hereby proclaim October 2014 to be Principals Month. Proclamation adopted this, the 15th day of October 2014. Here to accept the proclamation are three principals from our elementary, middle, and high school levels. Representing our elementary schools is Ramona Elementary School Principal, Ms. Irene Medlin. Representing our middle schools is Eastwood Middle School Principal, Ms. Melinda Villalobos. And representing our high schools is Valle Verde Early College High School Principal, Mr. Paul Covey. And if we have any principals in the room, please stand to be recognized at this time. Thank you to everything, all the principals. Thank you. Our next proclamation is in support of the Texas Education Human Resources Day. The proclamation reads, whereas the Human Resources Division plays a key role in fostering satisfaction and loyalty among employees by allowing for professional growth and development in keeping principals and employees informed about policies, working conditions, compensation, and benefits. Therefore, we, the Board of Trustees of the Ysleta Independent School District, does hereby proclaim that October 8, 2014 was observed throughout the district as Texas Education Human Resources Day. Proclamation adopted this, the 15th day of October, 2014. Here to accept the proclamation is Associate Superintendent of Human Resources, Mr. Jerry Molinowski, and his staff. Congratulations to Human Resources. Our last recognition this evening is for the October Partner of the Month Award. This month's recipient has partnered with two of our campuses, Escárate and Ramona Elementary Schools. For the past few years, this company has made an annual donation to both schools that totals nearly $10,000. Last year, this partner's donation of $4,800 per campus helped pay for field trips to Carlsbad Caverns, Indian Cliffs Ranch, and the Alamogordo Space Museum. This year, the money will again go toward field trips, as well as student incentives and upgraded technology equipment. At check presentation ceremonies last month, Escárate and Ramona students enthusiastically thanked this partner for their commitment and dedication to both schools. Both schools feel very fortunate to have the support of this partner in education, which generally provides students with great opportunities for success. The Partner in Education of the Month Award for October goes to Western Refining. Here representing Western Refining is Planning and Optimization Manager, Mr. Mike Platts. Accompanying Mr. Platts is Escarate Elementary School Principal, Ms. Claudia Urreño Olivas, and PI Campus Coordinator, Ms. Bertha Morales. Representing Ramon Elementary, we have Principal Ms. Irene Medlin and Assistant Principal Ms. Julicia Esquivel and PI Campus Coordinator Ana Medina.
Here we go, big smile, everybody. Here we go. 3, 2. Thank you all. Congratulations.
Thank you again, Western Refining. This concludes the recognitions for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have no requests for citizen input this evening. During the October 13th Agenda Review Workshop, there were no consent items pulled for discussion. Are there any consent items you would like to discuss or any further discussion on the order of this agenda? May I please have a motion on the revised order of this agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Lewis?
I move to approve the order of the October 15th agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on the order of the agenda?
Madam President, members of the board, the administration would recommend the order of the agenda. However, administration would like the board's consideration in pulling item under policies C, D, and F
Okay,
for further research.
thank you. All in favor?
I'm sorry, what was that?
C, D, and F, policies.
We can reach conclusions and come back to the board by November.
Okay, thank you. All in favor of the revised order of the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Is this for the policy? I'm sorry. The policies, or are we on the consent?
The policies.
I have a question on the, I'm still having a hard time with one of the policies.
Which one was that one?
Can we probably maybe go individually on that?
On the other policies?
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor? Again?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, approve the minutes for the regular board meeting on September 10th and special meetings and/or workshops on July 7th and September 8th, 2014. Is there discussion? May I please have a motion on the minutes as presented?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Lewis?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting on September 10th, the special meetings and/or workshops on July 7th and September 8th, 2014.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Woodruff. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Madam President, members of the board, the administration would recommend approval of the minutes as presented.
Thank you, sir. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Dr. De La Torre, do you have reports for the board?
Madam President, yes. Welcome, everybody. Pleased to be here. Since we last met, I want to report that I had the privilege of attending an event on Friday, September 19th at the Del Valle High School student and cancer patient Stephen Gonzalez's dream came true during the halftime program of the school's varsity football game, thanks to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Stephen's wish was remarkable in that he didn't ask for anything for himself or even for his family. Instead, he asked for new equipment for the school's drumline, which was unveiled at the football game. The emotional reaction to the granting of Stephen's wish was priceless, and we are proud to call him one of our own. On behalf of the Ysleta Independent School District, we wish continued strength and courage for Stephen in his brave fight against cancer. Last month, Glen Cove Elementary School was among 11 campuses in the state and the only school in El Paso to be chosen by the Texas Education Agency for a special Best Practices Case Studies project. TEA chose Glen Cove because of the high achievement and improvement seen among its students in the last year's state test scores. As part of this project, TEA will research the school's best practices to discover how and why Glen Cove has proven so successful in the classroom. Congratulations to Glen Cove Elementary School on this great achievement. Also last month, the city and the county of El Paso both issued formal resolutions and proclamations in commemoration of the Ysleta Independent School District centennial in 2015. On Monday, September 22nd, the El Paso County Commissioners passed a resolution in honor of our 100-year anniversary, while the El Paso City Council issued a similar proclamation at its regular meeting on Tuesday, September 30th. We are grateful for the support of our city and county leaders, and we will continue to work close with them for the betterment of our schools and of our community. Please take a moment to examine the district documents from the 1920s and 1930s, now on display out in the hall of the seating area. Near the seating area outside the Rio Grande room, the handwritten general ledger and minute books were found in the district vault and are now on prominent display as part of our centennial commemoration. On Wednesday, October 8th, we held a ribbon-cutting ceremony at Desert Air Elementary School to celebrate the completion of its new classroom wing. The wing contains 8 spacious classrooms occupied mostly by 5th graders and students with special needs. This much-needed classroom wing was made possible through the facilities bond passed by our voters in 2004, so we'd like to thank our community for making this project possible at Desert Air Elementary School. And yesterday, I attended the City Council meeting with Marion Manor Elementary School 4th grader Hugo Richard Michael Page, an origami fan who is receiving attention for a letter he sent to his favorite author, Tom Engelberger. Mr. Engelberger writes the New York Times best-selling series, Origami Yoda, which is based on characters from the Star Wars movies. Hugo sent Mr. Engelberger a letter asking whether his latest book would be the last in the series, and the author replied by sending a postcard that contained an image of Yoda drawn by Mr. Engelberger. To Hugo's surprise, that same image of Yoda is on the last page of Mr. Engelberger's newest book, and it's accompanied by a message that reads, "The end, this is not." These initials stand for Hugo, Richard, Michael, and Marion Manor. As a result, the City Council honored Hugo with an award yesterday for his inquisitive mind, love of books, and Jedi intelligence. Congratulations to Hugo on being acknowledged by Mr. Engelberger in his latest book, which is published worldwide in several languages. Keep up the good work, Hugo. And this week, we received word that the Ysleta Independent School District has earned the highest recognition, the Platinum Award, from the Texas Comptroller Leadership Circle program. This program recognizes local governments that are striving to meet a high standard for financial transparency online. Specifically, the program spotlights governments that open their books to the public, provide clear and consistent pictures of spending, and share information in a user-friendly format that lets taxpayers easily access more detail. This is the 5th year in a row that Ysleta I.S.D. is receiving top honors from the Leadership Circle. Congratulations to Mr. Kafka and to our Division of Finance on their hard work. And finally, just briefly, I want to update the board, let them know that we are close to completing the Facilities Assessment Committee. We've got a few more phone calls to make, but we've, I believe, been able to create that body to continue our assessment and evaluation of our facilities throughout the district. We thank you for your contributions and your cooperation. That is my report, Madam President.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for sharing these wonderful news that we are all proud of. The order of the agenda has been approved, but once again, do we have any consent agenda items that anyone wants to discuss? If not, may I please have a motion on the consent agenda items listed on this agenda?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Woodruff.
I move to approve the consent agenda items as recommended by administration.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. The Board of Trustees has determined that a closed meeting of the Board of Trustees is required to discuss the items set forth in the posted agenda for this date. Such closed meeting is authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Section 551.001, which including but not limited to the sections and purposes covered by the following section of the Texas Government Code 551.071, 72, 73, 74, 76, 82, 821, 83, and 84. Should any final action, decision, or vote be required with regard to any matter considered in closed session, the final action, decision, or vote shall be in the open meeting or at a subsequent public meeting with notice. The board will now move to the Rio Grande room for closed session. Okay, I reconvene this meeting with the following present: Ms. Dueñas, Mr. Haggerty, Mrs. Woodruff, Ms. Lewis, and myself, Patricia McLean. We will now address the posted action agenda items. Action item number 1, consider and take possible action on the Level 3 employee grievance of a special education teacher. Is there discussion? May I please have a motion on action item number 1? Action item number 2, consider and take possible action to approve the use of unexpended 2004 bond proceeds on boiler replacements at various campuses in an amount not to exceed $700,000. Is there a discussion? May I please have a motion on action item number 2?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Woodruff.
I move to approve the use of unexpended 2004 bond proceeds on boiler replacements at various campuses in an amount not to exceed $700,000.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haggerty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now we will address the policy action items. Policy action item A, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading TASB Update 100, recommended revisions to policy CPC Local, Office Management, Records Management. Is there discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-A?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Woodruff?
I move to adopt on first reading TASB Update Number 100, recommended revisions to policy CPC Local, Office Management, Records Management.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Madam President, members of the board, the administration would recommend approval of policy CPC.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item B, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading TASB Update 100, recommended revisions to policy CRD, Local Insurance and Annuities Management, Health and Life Insurance. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Dueñas?
My question is, on this reading, will it be affecting just the part-timers on the, since they're not insured, but I mean, just in case they went to a insurance or anything within the, or say they did a little bit more of hours and got paid for more than, will this be affecting them?
Dr. De La Torre?
Madam President, members of the board, I'll defer to Jerry Molinowski, our Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources.
Thank you, Dr. Del Torre. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Del Torre. Ms. Duenas, the only adjustment here is that TASB is recommending we remove the language that just talks about distinguishing between full and part-time, and that has to do with the new Affordable Care Act. We're already going to be under a different law for that, so we don't need that language there anymore. It's just an editorial change.
Okay.
Any other discussion? May I
Well,
please? Oh, go ahead,
I was
Ms.
just
Woodruff.
wondering, so this has nothing to do then with any change we're going to make with the insurance then?
Oh, yeah, Ms. Woodruff, absolutely not. No, this has nothing to do with it. This just had to do about the language they took out just says that we're going to contribute and distinguish between full and part-time as those terms are defined, and we're just removing that language because the federal government's going to tell us what full and part-time are now.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1B?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lewis.
I move to adopt on first reading TASB update number 100, recommended revision to policy CRD local, insurance and indemnities, management, health, and life insurance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Duenas. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Madam President, members of the board, the administration would recommend the policy as presented.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-5-0. We will pass on policy action number C, as that was pulled. And number D, we will move on to policy action number E, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading TASB update number 100, recommended revisions, including Ysleta I.S.D, specific language to policy DCD, local employment practices at will employment. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1E?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Woodruff?
I move to adopt on first reading TASB update number 100, recommended revisions including Ysleta I.S.D specific language to policy DCD, local employment practices at will employment.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Madam President, the administration would recommend the adoption of that policy as written.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will skip to number G. Consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading Ysleta-specific revisions to policy EIF, local academic achievement graduation. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-G?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lewis.
I move to adopt on first reading Ysleta-specific revisions to policy EIF, academic achievement graduation.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
The administration would recommend policy EIF be adopted as written.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item number H. Consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading TASB Update Number 100, recommended revisions to policy FDA, local admissions, inter-district transfers. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-H?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Woodruff?
I move to adopt on first reading TASB Update Number 100, recommended revisions to policy FDA local admissions interdistrict transfers.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dueñas and Ms. Lewis. Dr. De La Torre, does the administration have a recommendation on this item?
The administration would recommend adopting policy FDA as written.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item I, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading Ysleta-specific revisions to policy FEA local attendance, compulsory attendance. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-I?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lewis.
I move to adopt on first reading Ysleta-specific revision to policy FEA, local attendance, compulsory attendance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dueñas. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Yes, Madam President, the administration recommends the adoption of policy FEA as written.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item number J, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading TASB Update Number 100, recommended revisions to policy FL, local student records. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-J?
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Woodruff.
I move to adopt on first reading TASB Update Number 100, recommended revisions to policy FL local student records.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dueñas. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Madam President, members of the board, the administration recommends the adoption of policy FL as written.
Sir, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item number K, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading Ysleta-specific revisions to policy FMH, local student activities. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-K?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Ms. Lewis?
I move to adopt on first reading Ysleta-specific revision to policy FMH, local student activities.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Haggard. Does the administration have a recommendation on this item?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, I was distracted. The administration does recommend the policy FMH as presented.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item number, what is that, an L or a 1?
L.
L? There's no dash. Okay, consider and take possible action to adopt new policy as recommended in TASB Update Number 100, Policy GBAA, Local Information Access Request for Information. Is there any discussion? May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-L?
Madam President,
Yes, ma'am?
I move to adopt new policy as recommended in TASB Update Number 100, Policy GBAA Local Information Access Request for Information.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Yes, Madam President, the administration would recommend policy GBAA as presented.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Policy action item number 1-M, consider and take possible action to adopt on first reading TASB Update Number 100, Recommendations on policy GKB local, community relations, advertising, and fundraising in schools. Is there any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Haggard.
if I read the policy right, I didn't get a chance to ask on Monday, but this strikes out in-kind donations. We can't have sponsorship logos on
Is your
something that's
microphone on,
donated.
sir? Your microphone, is it on?
It's on.
Dr. De La Torre? The question was with regard to in-kind donations.
It is silent on in-kind donations. I don't see any language on that.
It's, let me find it real quick. One, two, third paragraph, where it says providing materials and equipment, it's scratched out.
I
Advertising
see.
shall be accepted solely for the purpose of generating revenue, and then where it says providing materials and equipment, it's scratched out.
Right. I thought you meant, does the current policy contain the in-kind? No, the in-kind has, or what would be referred to as in-kind, has been crossed out.
So when we get, say, scoreboards from Fred Loya that just everybody's gotten, we can't have his logo on the scoreboard?
Mr. Safi?
Ms. McLean, trustees, this policy has been substantially rewritten and as suggested by TASB. It's based, the impetus for rewriting it is based on a case in the Lubbock School District involving their Jumbotron at their football field and an extremely controversial ad that someone tried to run on the Jumbotron, and it was denied. It's referred to as the Tattoo Jesus case. The district court ruled in favor of the school district and said you did not violate this person's constitutional rights by refusing to run their ad. The case is now on appeal to the Fifth Circuit. I have familiarity with the case because I was asked by the TASB Legal Assistance Fund to write friend of the court briefs, both at the trial court level and at the Fifth Circuit. And in looking at the policy, they realized, this policy really needs to be beefed up in the sense of being able to assist the district to have a well-written policy to deal with possibly extremely controversial advertising that someone may want to require the district to run on claiming a First Amendment right. Now, you'll notice across from in the second margin note, it defines advertising. It then says advertising, and then there are restrictions on advertising in the balance of the policy. But the last sentence of that paragraph says advertising does not include public recognition of donors or sponsors who have made contributions, financial or otherwise, to the district or school support organizations. So by saying that's not advertising, it's saying that if someone makes a donation to the school in kind or otherwise, there can be a recognition for that donor without getting involved in the prohibitions or recognitions that would be involved or requirements that would be involved in accepting paid advertising. So that a recognition of an in-kind donor would be certainly, there's nothing prohibiting it in here. And what it's saying is that type of recognition is free from the restrictions that apply to paid advertising.
Is there a difference between recognition and their sponsorship logo on, I don't know, the touchdown, the 25-second timers?
In terms of the logo,
Right.
I think there it's going to end up being sort of a judgment call that the administration will need to make. Well, now wait a minute. If they want to run the logo, is that now advertising? And if it's advertising, the policy sets out certain guidelines for the administration in accepting or rejecting advertising, okay? Generally speaking, just straight commercial advertising, there's no problem with it. Some of the things that this policy now prohibits, and it's a judgment call by the district, an example is there's now a prohibition against accepting political advertising, okay? And that's the district, the board doesn't have to, I mean, that's not required by law, but some consider it to be a good idea to not accept political advertising so as to avoid any appearance that the district might be taking sides in a political race or something like that. But a commercial logo, generally there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, generally it's not going to be a logo. Where this policy provides some help for the district is if for some reason the logo is extremely controversial or extremely distasteful or something like that, then the policy provides the authority to the administration to reject that advertising. But if it's a typical commercial logo, there's no problem with it, whether it's advertising or whether it's considered recognition of a donor.
But again, the way it's written, I mean, I was confused by it. I don't see where it says, oh, we can let some, but not all. I feel that since it's not a time-sensitive issue, maybe we can have a second reading where it's worded a little better. I think the district can do a better job than TASB in this case.
And that would be fine. From the legal perspective, I don't think that there'd be any downside to putting this off a month if you'd like to work on that language some more.
Thank you.
Any other questions, discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Dueñas?
Now, on this one also, would it be like, for instance, policy as in just for instance, like Mr. Haggerty said, it's a scoreboard or anything. Would this be affecting also any politician that comes to the district? Would that be affecting that?
I think only if he was campaigning. the way
Dr.
it's
De La Torre?
written.
I think what Mr. Safi said was that generally we stay away from anything that gives the appearance that we're endorsing a political candidate or taking sides on a political issue.
Like, for instance, if they hand out their cards or information, would that be part of it?
Please, Mr. Safi.
Just for the record, so
Yes,
that
ma'am.
whoever's hearing this, politicians can hear what we're also trying to what the policy is about instead, and we can be able to explain to them that we did go and it's on record if they want to hear it already.
This particular policy only deals with advertising, and this particular policy contains language in it that, if adopted by the board, would say the district does not accept paid political advertising. And this would be, say, if a candidate wanted to pay for advertising on a scoreboard, pay for space on a sign or something like that, and it's saying, well, the district doesn't accept paid political advertising. This policy doesn't address issues such as persons going to school campuses, persons handing out materials, leaflets, literature. All that's addressed by other policies. The only thing that's addressed in this policy is the advertising, and that's it.
Okay.
Any other questions, discussion? Thank you. May I please have a motion on policy item number 1-M?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Haggerty?
I move to send policy GKB local back for revision and bring it back next month.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Woodruff. Dr. De La Torre, does administration have a recommendation on this item?
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, the administration will work with Mr. Safi to bring greater clarity to the policy.
Thank you, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. For information purposes, we have regulations for exhibits A, new, CKC-R, inclement weather, and B, EHDE-R, and exhibit alternative methods for earning credit distance learning. Is there any other discussion or comments? Did anybody want to comment on the TASB conference that we had? Anything that they learned, anything that they want to share?
I'll share something.
Go ahead, Ms. Woodruff.
I got to go as the second, not the delegate, but the alternate, to listen to the debate and the process they use for their advocacy program. And I have to say it was really very interesting and enlightening to see what the rest of the state thinks on many of the issues that are important to us also, and how that we are basically in agreement with a lot of the country, but a lot of Texas, but then there are some issues that I feel like we are totally different from them on, and so it just brings to my mind the importance of us participating in this process and making sure that the voice of the El Paso area is heard.
Thank you. Were there other delegates from the other school districts?
Yes, there were delegates from all the districts that were represented by TASB, that are and members of the TASB organization. And they have, of course, one voting delegate and one who's alternate who basically listens. And that's good to listen to, but it was a very interesting process.
I was just curious because when I was there last year, there wasn't a lot of representation from the other school districts in the county.
You know,
So-
the one thing that was kind of, like you're saying, our district was represented, but several of the others were not. They didn't go to the main meeting anyway.
Right.
So,
To vote.
right. So that just makes it more important for us to say what we need to say.
Yes, ma'am. Anybody else want to share with regard to any of the sessions they attended?
Go ahead.
Madam Chair.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
attended a lot of different types of workshops this year. The sessions were wonderful. There were sessions on curriculum that were updating some of the things and some of the ways that we might be able to offer more things for our students. We're going to look at some of those things, I believe. There were several on safety and how we're going to be ready for the next level of whatever comes our way. Lots of people are in the same construction dilemmas that we're in. Some are with growing too fast, and some are like we're losing and trying to figure out how to gain those kids back. And then the state updates were very interesting on the lawsuit and where we stand with those instruments. So I have all the handouts for any of those. If anybody's interested, I'll be happy to email them to you. But it was a very good conference. The keynote speakers were wonderful this year, so it was very good.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Anybody else? Ms. Dueñas?
I found it very informative, all the sessions that we went to. I went to 13 of them. I was very interesting. I learned a lot. I've had better ideas into bettering the district and bringing up information so that we can better our district better and get more informative, more transparent into letting everybody know what we're trying to do to help our district. And like Ms. Woodruff and Ms. Lewis said, it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. Everybody was very friendly. We met different groups. We sat in a lot of sessions, a lot of very interesting sessions that were very interesting. So I really enjoyed it, and it was very informative.
Thank you. I attended a breakfast with and represented Far West Texas, and I was surprised to find that I was the only one from this area there. So I did learn a lot there about advocating for our students and for public education and what other regions are doing. And they're a lot more active with that advocacy than we are here. So hopefully that will start some conversations here as Granadillo's trying to do with their program. But I always come away with so much information, and it's hard to go to all those sessions and figure out which ones to pick from. I know that's the hardest thing for me. But, well, thank you for sharing. And is there any other discussion or comments? Well, thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Ms. Lewis. We are adjourned.